Oh, I'm live with the Bad Batch. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like my singing? Probably don't, but that's fine with me. I don't care. It's fine. Hello, hello, hello. I'm giving it a few minutes here to let everyone, the whole I don't know, one person who's probably watching this, which is fine. I don't mean it. There's my Diet Coke. It's gonna be unlifted here. I'm gonna be introducing everyone here in 1 second after I take a sip. All right. All right. Well, I've got one out of two guests here, but I have, I think, the most important person. Sorry, Tim. Anyway, as always, I am your host, Paul Herman. I'm going to unlift the veiling of one of my favorite people in the world, Jonah Marie. Woo! What's up, Jonah?
Good. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, yes. I am very blessed you are here because you are definitely one of my favorite people in the entire galaxy, if you will. It's true. It's true. And for people who don't know, Jonah Marie and I go way back now. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but it's been a while, like 2015, which is 6 years ago now.
I know, it's hard to believe, right?
Whoa, or 14. I think it was 14. Wait. Well, it was 15 because it was.
It might have been a little bit before Celebration. Anaheim.
We were like Twitter buddies.
Yes,
right?
Yes, and podcasts.
Yeah. Just but very like peripherally, just kind of like, oh yeah, and we officially met through our dear friend John Beerley, and I immediately was smitten with how amazing you were and how how genuine you were. So that was, and I mean seriously, I remember we used to always talk about how awesome of a fan you were because you radiated positivity and you loved what you loved. And I love that, I mean, yes, I may not identify with Ezra Bridger as much as you do, or or love him as much as you do. But nonetheless, I love how earnest you are about your love. It reminds me a lot of myself, and I love what I love, and I don't let people get me down. You do your thing. So, but thank you for joining me today on this joyous occasion of talking about the Bad Batch and Star Wars.
Yeah, thank you for those kind words.
I mean it.
My heart.
This is kind of a weird, funny story while waiting for Tim, if he ever joins us. I'm not sure if he's going to. I know you're coming, Tim. Don't worry. Tim Gerasi, my fellow compatriot. Patriot. I don't even know if it's a word.
It is.
Oh, thank God. Oh man, I was a little nervous on that one. No, but I have given. There's two people I've given this comic book to. Okay, I've given it to you, and I've given it to Justin Bolger. And what's funny is I always thought I could go rebuy it because I have a bunch of different versions of it, and it's Tales of the Jedi, the first volume. And I remember when I gave it to him, I'm like, I'll rebuy it later. And I found it again, then I gave it to you, thinking the same thing. I'll buy it later. And I started looking at all the I was like, I should rebuy that. I look and it's like $50 now. I was like,
oh no.
I was like, oh crap, right? I was like, oh no. And so so comic bans are bringing it all back to comic books. Don't worry. So I was like, okay, that sucks. Oh well, I honestly didn't care. I was like, yeah, it's fine. I gave it to two wonderful people that I love because I want to share comic books. No crap. About 3 weeks ago, I found this for $6.
That looks brand new.
Girl, I believe in fate. I believe in karma because I found it. This is the best version I've gotten. Because I given no offense, I've given worse versions to you and a Death Star.
Oh, but I love the worn, nature to it.
I do too. But this is you said it yourself. You said this was a nice. This is like brand new.
Wow,
$6.
That's like karma coming back, but in a good way. Good things come around.
Yes. Yeah. No, it was the most. It made me feel like what I did was right. Was giving it to you guys, right? So anyway, for those again, we're gonna talk about the Bad Batch today, and we're gonna be joined by Tim Gerasi at some point. I'm not sure. He said he's gonna try to make 8 o'clock, but I'm gonna give him crap when he gets on because it's a legitimate reason why he's not, and you're all gonna laugh. Except for you, Jonah. You're gonna laugh your butt off. Anyway, I know you're on tons of podcasts because you need to be because you're awesome. So, but I'm gonna drill you a couple things here.
Ooh.
So, what do you think of the Bad Batch? I'll give my thoughts in a minute, but What's your take on? I mean, I know you love Star Wars animation. What's not mince words here. We know if anyone knows who you are.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, yes, right. But Jonah, let's find out what you think about the Bad Batch as it was. And first, before you get into your overall feel, what was your thoughts going into the announcement, after the announcement, and going into the show itself?
Got it. So with the announcement, I was actually the opposite, of course, of a lot of people, because everyone thought the Bad Batch, like that's not the ideal way to go for the next chapter of Star Wars animation. I know people would have preferred other stories, other characters, but I am a clone girl. Like I've always been a fan of the clones. I started off with the Republic Commando books, which I write there. And it just progressed from there with Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So when I saw that that was going to be the next thing to be featured, I thought, oh, this is amazing. I love that arc. So I'm excited. And so I was very, and then of course it's Star Wars animation. So I thought, that's fantastic. You know, I like this department doing the things that they do, and I want them to continue doing that because that's what keeps me here. I tell everyone that if Star Wars animation were to go away, I'd probably go away too. But not really. Not really. Because I've made so many friends here, so I would not go entirely.
You can't go anywhere. You're stuck with us.
But as for the show itself, when it started, and I was able to finally watch it, I enjoyed it. I was actually just pulled in right from the get-go with, you know, that 10-15 minute intro with Caleb and Depa. Of course, I have my thoughts about how that was portrayed as visually, but and I know some people have brought up some of those concerns, legitimate, valid concerns about how they were portrayed. So, but from that point forward, I mean, I was just completely immersed in the story, and I fell in love with Omega, and I thought this is the next Ezra for me.
Oh man, the next Ezra. What's her nickname gonna be? Like Blonde Top or something? I don't know. I don't
know. It has to come naturally, you know. Definitely not Blonde Top. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it.
Well, all right. I'm gonna convince you otherwise at some point tonight. All right.
Yeah, those are my initial thoughts about it.
Okay. Well, I can tell you right now that first of all, we were there. I think we watched the Bad Batch. I think from Celebration back in the day together. I'm pretty sure we're right by each other.
I think so.
Yeah, because I think we're by Saf. I think you're by Saf. We were all kind of by together, I think. And I remember I was by Justin and John, obviously, but I'm pretty sure you're right there. And we watched the rough animation. What they call it?
Animatics.
Animatics. Yes, we watched the animatics together, and I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, like, you know, but I enjoyed it. Like it was fun. And then when they announced the Clone Wars came back, I watched the Bad Batch episodes. I was like, okay, that makes sense. You know, whatever. And I liked them. I didn't, again, love them, but they were fine. And when it was announced, or we heard the rumors of the show being announced, I was like, I don't know. You know, I just it didn't grab me as I thought it might. So when I just but again, it's Star Wars anime. It's Star Wars in general. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Resistance, but I watched all of it. And I enjoyed it at times, but other times I didn't. But anyway, as we got closer and closer to the Bad Batch and seeing the trailers, I started buying into it. I was like, okay. I mean, it's Clone Wars animation, right? I mean, how can I go wrong with that? It looks incredible. So, like you, I went in and I was blown away how great the first episode was. Blown away. Like a lot of people, and a big reason why we're talking about it, besides the Star Wars, but what it means for canon, I think in the beginning of the episode with the comic books and everything. We'll get into that later. I'll wait for Tim to show up. But yeah, it was a great extension and continuation of what the Clone Wars had already given us.
Right.
And that was great. And I love that. And I love the serialized format that I think the Clone Wars kind of has. A lot of things that, you know, that George Lucas was built on, or he grew up loving, like comic books. And, you know, again, going back to comic books, those are all things he loved. And it has that real kind of Flash Gordon, again, Clone Wars feel that it was all heavily influenced by George, that George is influenced by. So it was a great extension of that. And I loved it. I thought it was a great it was a great introduction, to be quite honest. I thought it was great.
Agree. Yeah. And I also love the Rebels type of feeling to it, with the found family. It's just focusing on these characters going on their journey. Whereas, in Star Wars, The Clone Wars, it was more about jumping around an anthology-like setup. So as much as I love that, I love zoning in on a specific group of characters, getting to learn about them more, seeing their trials and tribulations and how they grow together. So that I'm looking forward to, because it's a great blend of Clone Wars because of the visual style and the animation style, but also of the just the story and the emotional impact of Rebels, and of course of Clone Wars too.
Yeah, no, it definitely. I mean, there's some controversial things I want to ask you later on. You're going to be like, oh my God. Like, you're going to be like, not like crazy or controversial, but we are finally joined by our third party here, Mr. Tim Gerasi. Tim, are you ready to come on? Just nod yes. You nodded yes. All right. Mr. Tim, how are we all doing?
Hello.
Tim, if I know you're new to this, bro, but we got to get some lighting on you, man. You need some light. Turn on some. Let there be light.
Let me see if I could get the light side shining in here. Right?
Yeah, get the light side. It's not a big deal, but I just got it. Oh, he's getting over.
I love your shirt.
There's your boy. There's your boy. And there you go. There he is. It's a beautiful face. Adam,
how could I be wearing anything else than the Clone Trooper shirt, right?
Yeah, exactly. I almost wore my Clone Wars shirt, but I told Jonah, gotta represent Rise of Skywalker, baby. You gotta represent.
I'm all for that too.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. So we were just talking about the Bad Batch, kind of in general thoughts here, Tim, and just kind of. I'm very curious what your take was going into the show. I know we talked a lot about it on our podcast, but what was your kind of feelings as it was announced and going into the show? In a couple of days before.
I was extremely excited for it. I mean, even when it was first announced, I was excited just because it's a show focusing on clone troopers, and that's right up my alley. So
yeah, that's true.
But man, when we got that first look in that trailer at that, I forget what even what it was for now, but that reveal at Disney Plus special where they announced all those TV shows and we got our first look.
Oh, the sizzle.
At the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
And that trailer just
I love saying sizzle. It's a great word. Sizzle.
It just would look stunning. This like continuing right where Clone Wars season 7 left off with the animation style, and I couldn't be more excited for it. And I kind of felt like I was one of the few who was actually really excited for it, because I was on social media and stuff. I saw kind of like tepid reaction. Yeah, it looks cool.
Me?
But no, so I was just extremely excited going into it on May the 4th when the premiere came on, and boy, once I saw it, the trailer blew me away, just how great it looked. But when I saw the actual episodes, it completely blew me away. And I was expecting it to be great, but I don't know, there's something about it that it surpassed my expectations even as excited as I was for it going in.
Yeah, and that's like I think the common thread that I've seen throughout the internet, to be honest. I'm curious if you guys would agree that I think more people have been surprised by it as far as than being like, yeah, it's about what I expected. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, because I went in thinking it's going to be a solid show. It's the animation alone it sells me on it, right? But that made me kind of get more behind the story initially and giving it a real fair chance, because I love that Clone Wars animation. I mean, I love the first season of Clone Wars from a story and animation standpoint. I mean, it's a little rough now when you look at it, but I love it. And I just love how it just feels, it grows as every season. And I love that continuous growth, and it just keeps getting more mind-blowingly amazing as it goes on. And yeah, that the animation definitely kind of softened me for that trailer, because I'll be honest, I still would like the show if the animation was like, let's say, Rebels, right? Which again, I'm not trying to dog on Rebels.
You better not.
You know I love Rebels. You know I do. I love Rebels. I do. I love it to death. It's just the animation is, if you look compared to animation, it's more stylized and it's not as detailed and rich, in my opinion, than the Clone Wars. I mean, I think it's a fact of like not your preference, but as far as the technicality, if you will. That's what I mean. So there's that. But no, I if it was done in that sense, it still would be good, but I wouldn't maybe be as enthusiastic in going into it. Seeing that first trailer made me totally buy into it. So, So going into the story, and we're going to save the comic stuff for a little bit, because the bread and butter of the channel, right? Comics, but no, because I think that's a really good conversation there. But I just kind of want to talk about the episodes in general. And Tim, you weren't here for my little teaching moment for Jonah how I'm going to do things. So don't be blown away if things show up on screen.
Okay.
Just good FYI. But so going into it, I loved these characters. These are great characters, and that's the one thing that I was missing, I think, from the actual Clone Wars TV show, from the new episodes, was how great these. I think just how the chemistry of them together without having Rex or Anakin, just having them kind of breathe and have their own story. I was really impressed with how much I was engaged with them, way more than I was anticipating, to be quite honest. So I'm curious what you, let's go with you first, Jonah, because ladies first, Tim, sorry. What, I just loved how they really gelled, and it's one person, obviously, Dee Bradley Baker, but I was really impressed with how they're able to give them such different personalities and actually make them even more engaging in the actual show. Did you feel that they were more engaging, not just because they were without an Anakin or Rex, but just in general?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that they weren't attached to a Jedi general or like a Jedi commander. So you're zooming in on these characters, and now they're experiencing their own kind of loss by the end of the episode. And I just thought that diving into these 5 particular characters was just really interesting, because it wasn't something like we've seen before in the Clone Wars. We saw a little bit of it in Bad Batch. So I'm glad we got to expand upon that. And actually, some people were surprised. Yeah, like what you said, they were surprised by it. They were surprised that they got so engaged and so captivated by these characters. And I felt the same way. I knew it was going to be a great premiere, but I was just blown away by it.
Yeah, it gets so weird because we shouldn't be this surprised by Star Wars animation at this point. I mean, all 3 of us are huge
I know,
fans.
right?
Right. We shouldn't be. I mean, and again, I'm not trying to dog Resistance. I know you're a big fan, Jonah, but
I think what it is that we're just surprised that they keep raising the bar.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is, more than, that we're surprised that it's actually good. We know that it's good. It's just that we're surprised that it's, better.
Yeah, it's like just when you think it can't get any better, it does.
Right. No, and I think that's a good point. And going into it, I didn't really think about Dave Filoni was that involved in it. And I don't know the extent, and you guys might know better than I do. But I felt that I was great to see or know that it was not handled by Filoni himself. It was by other people. And knowing that, even though wasn't like writing it himself or directing episodes himself, it still felt like Clone Wars and Rebels in that aesthetic and the way they told the story. And I go back to the idea that this feels like George Lucas. And I think that's what's really important, is that he taught Filoni how to do Star Wars, right? But he also taught, now Filoni's teaching other people how to do Star Wars. So it's being like kind of brought down, and I forgot her name, and forget me, and Jonah or
the
Tim.
head writer.
Yeah, the head.
Yeah, Jennifer Corbett.
She wrote the first episode, correct?
Yes, she did, and she also worked on Star Wars Resistance.
Right, and again, I don't. That's a whole different podcast for Star Wars Resistance, but I did not dislike. I didn't dislike it like other people did. I definitely had my issues with it, but the writing was never part of it. It was more of the dynamics and things like that. But that's whole different podcast. But that being said, I felt this first episode, Aftermath, it felt no different to me. Which I think is a strong. And I'm not sure if she wrote Rebels or Clone Wars before, but it felt no different at all than those episodes. I'm curious, Tim, did you feel the same way?
No, yeah. I mean, you could easily have thought that this was the season 8 premiere for Clone Wars. Really, it just felt like it was continuing on from that, and like you said, to me that's great because it was so awesome.
Hold on, Tim, I might interrupt you. Justin Bolger.
I saw the comments.
Yeah, I was so God. I bet Justin was happy to hear Emperor Palpatine again in a different version. It's like anytime he gets a different version of Palpatine, even though it's like it's modified a little bit differently, it's like, oh, it's it's Ian McDermott's voice, but it's got sweet new rendering of Clone Wars. Oh God, yes. That's how Justin does it. No, Justin, I appreciate.
He strokes
Hey, that was
his
a
chin
great
as he
moment.
He's
says
just
it.
like no, he's like this. He's like stroking his Mr. T hair. He's like yes, yeah. I love you, Justin. You know that. Please keep commenting. Please. This is great. I love it. But yes, and this like she said, oh my God, Justin, exactly. So Tim, I apologize. Continue.
No, yeah, it was just great how it continued on as far as just capturing that greatness and specialness you felt with like Clone Wars and the Star Wars animation in general at its very best. And I think you felt that right away in the first opening sequence, and it just continued on throughout the course of premiere. Like I said, when I was just giving my general impression, it just completely blew me away as far as everything, animation, storytelling, acting. It was just like the really complete package of just great Star Wars content that we were getting.
No, totally. I was, again, it was so nice to kind of feel that again, the Clone Wars and Rebels in that way they tell that, shorter again, and this was, I'm assuming, a couple episodes combined. That's what it felt like anyway. I'm not sure if that was a purpose behind it or whatever, but
to me, it didn't seem as obvious as like the first Clone Wars movie did, where you knew where the episode ended and yet it continued on. To me, this one felt more seamless, as it felt like just one pretty much long episode, really.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah. It didn't feel like it was a segment where it would, eventually stop there for like syndication if they ever wanted to put it on syndication.
Syndication, what's that going to be anymore? I mean, Joan,
I know it's not going to exist really with Disney Plus. They want it to be very exclusive. So
yeah, no, exactly. No, it was crazy. I didn't even think about that. Syndication is pretty much gonzo now with binge, with the binge areas. But but it and that's the thing. I think that I just, it felt like I was wearing, like, going right into like a nice glove. It's like, or an old shoe. I know that's a weird thing to say. I'm sorry. Okay, it's a good thing. It just came into my mind. It's a glove.
It fit like a glove.
Thank you. I'm from Seattle. Gary Payton. Come on. But anyway, no, it just felt very just natural, and I was really appreciative of the fact that I don't know if that was purposeful. If that just kind of it just was nice to have that kind of going into it. So. I'm gonna go into really quickly here, Mr. Tarkin. But what do you mean boo? Why'd you boo Tarkin?
He made the biggest mistake of his career, even more so than staying on the Death Star before it blew up.
Okay, what's that?
Getting rid of the clone troopers and not having the part to be the Empire.
Well, he has a legitimate reason. Jonah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, they're very, they're expensive, whatever, and the costs and whatnot. It's just baloney.
Yep,
baloney. How's that baloney?
Because of the fact that they cut costs, they ended up having a very poor, military. And I'm sorry, Justin.
Justin's like, what? Poor military. Oh God!
Never would have lost the Battle of Endor if they had clone troopers. I'll say that.
But they would they even have an Endor if they had clone troopers? They'd probably be still paying off like the first wave of clones, probably. Let's be honest here. So
I mean, do you remember the Clovis arc where Palpatine pretty much got control of all the banks?
The banks.
Oh my God! You guys are going deep today.
Yeah,
seriously.
The banking plan and all that. Yeah.
Oh man, the Muns. Oh God, where's Darth Plagueis when you need him, man? Seriously. No, that's legit. I mean, that's legit. That's legit. No, I feel that Tarkin. You could argue this and debate it all you want, but at least it was nice to have a legitimate reason why they had to stop making clones. And I mean, it doesn't make sense. Maybe we all know it had to happen, right? But
exactly, yeah.
But it
felt
just
great to kind of get them see it in universe, the reasoning and explanation to why they did that. That was all great, yeah.
No, I felt that was very appropriate, and it was perfect. It was a perfect segue of we got to get rid of these clones. We've got to, and you got to also think that that's what Tarkin's saying. They probably also know that it's more than just money. It's probably, just be able to control everything, because also they have a short lifespan, right? I mean, they are accelerated, I'm assuming, at this point. So if that's the case, they're going to run out of soldiers really fast. So they need to have some control over a longer period of time. And that's why you have the stormtroopers. So I feel like there's also, it's not just a money aspect. It's like we need to control the galaxy, and what better way than get people, our own people around the galaxy to buy into that. So at least to me, it made sense. So it was nice to kind of,
that totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's good to kind of address. I like how in Star Wars you have to address these things kind of, and I like the fact that Dave Filoni and George Lucas in Star Wars in general obviously has never shied away from explaining things for the most part. So, which I really like. I like when people explain things, and I also like mysteries, but whatever. Which we'll get into that mystery in a second here. So, I have to say, when I first saw the trailer, this character was a little surprising. I was not expecting this certain character to pop up and be narrating the story. And I remember, and Tim, as you witnessed on the show, on our old podcast, like it's gone. It's going to be back on here next week when I'm on there. No, our other podcast, Saga Continues, go subscribe or whatever. So I'm so terrible at this. Just for the record, I'm terrible at being a host, as you probably could tell. Like, get that guy out of here. I don't blame you. So, but anyway, but no, like Tim can attest to this, that I was like, this little girl character. Okay, I can get behind this. Like, I like kind of the aesthetic we're giving, and they definitely kind of gave us an idea with her, like a couple of action shots, that she's not just going to be like I'm a kid, protect me. She's going to have her own kind of power, or just kind of her own kind of strength, whatever. And I was immediately kind of like, okay, I'm in on this character. Let's see what happens. Now the episode happens, and I was frankly blown away of how much I love the character, to be quite honest. And that character, of course, is Tarkin. No, it's Omega. No, this is I loved Omega, and I don't know about you guys, but I know about Jonah. She's already praised the character like every day now since I've seen her in social media. I loved Omega, and I was frankly really impressed at how they were able to, I think, to the general audience, I think, give a very compelling character that's not annoying and abrasive. Because I mean, let's be real. I mean, again, no offense to Ezra here, Jonah, but hold on. I liked Ezra, but a lot of people had problems with how he acted, and go ahead.
I'm going to tell you why they had problems with him.
Okay.
They had problems with Ezra because they wanted to see a very mature kind of character who didn't step on people's toes, who didn't question anything. They sort of wanted like a Return of the Jedi kind of Luke character, where he was just master of his abilities. That's not going to be Ezra. Ezra was 14 when we found him. He was living on the streets. This kid is going to have a rebellious nature to him. So I really appreciate that they went with that side of the character when Rebels was coming out, because he has to learn. He has to go through his obstacles, and we're going to have to experience that with him. And it's disappointing when adults feel like, oh, that's annoying. You went through that. You know that this is what this character has to go through.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I think that people didn't like Ezra and didn't like Ahsoka, because Ahsoka had to go through the same thing.
That's a really good point. That's a really, really good point. And I was always, and again, I've always felt like in the middle about both Ezra and the initial Ahsoka thing, because when I came into Clone Wars, I was about a season. I was always a season behind, because I was ahead of the curve, guys. I was binging before all you guys were, because I'd always wait for the DVDs and Blu-rays and then binge all afterwards. Oh, that's not by choice though, because of necessity. But anyway, but I actually never. I understood why people didn't like Ahsoka, but I liked Ahsoka. It was weird. I could kind of see both sides of the spectrum. And Ezra was another example of that. And I think you're right, Jonah, that people, it's hard for adults to identify to kids. Which is
strange, because you were a kid
exactly.
literally 10, 15 years ago, which really isn't that far away.
Right. Or even better yet, like you're watching a kid product as for to bring nostalgia, and it's like, how come they have this stupid kid in here? It's like, are you serious? I mean, okay. I mean, but at the same time, how sometimes, again, not every episode, but I can understand the way the character characterized Ezra in some places was a little much, in my opinion. But I still like the character, and I kind of see both sides. And so as a whole, I don't think Ezra is a bad character by any means. I just think that some of the episodes, they focused on kind of childish aspects that I think that was hard for people to get behind. And I think, again, it's kind of like Resistance was like that to 10, you know, and as far as that goes. I mean, and really, because there's some parts of Resistance I really liked, and it just wasn't consistent enough for, I think, for an adult audience, you know, if you will. But that being said, I mean, this is for kids. It's always for kids. And that's why I always say, or even for kids, I like saying for kids, it's for families, because it's something that everyone can sit down and enjoy. And that's the thing I think that's so important for us as fans to remember when we're reading Star Wars comic books or reading the books or watching the movies or watching the TV shows, is that whenever there's a childlike character, it's not just, you know, oh, we gotta identify with the kids. It's like, of course, you know, it's like, because you're supposed to be watching this with your kids. You know, a lot of these people like me, when I grow up, when my daughter grows up, I want to watch this with her, right? I want to watch these things with her. I want her to feel included as she watches them, you know, not just be like, Daddy, why are these people with lightsabers like getting their arms cut off every 5 minutes? It's like, well, this is what Daddy likes, so you have to deal with it. You know, it's like, you know, I don't want that. I want to be able to enjoy these things as a family. And granted, I want realism and I want some seriousness in my Star Wars. That's why I love Star Wars, is because that it gave children and adults kind of like an equal playing field. And I think that's what's so important for Star Wars, is that it never treated kids and adults as like separate, because they're not. Like it treat them all together. And at least in my opinion, and that's why I love the original trilogy. That's all the prequels that George, I think he really identified with, you know, being a kid, and it always will be important. And he identified not just with being a 12-year-old, but he identified with being kind of misunderstood and being able to connect with things as a kid, and never losing sight of that as he became an adult. And I think that's why Star Wars connects to so many different people. So, and again, I'm just spitballing things that people have said a million times, but back to Omega, I say that all because Omega is such a great character that she's so inquisitive about everything, but she's not, again, over the top, and she's got this charm to her that it's like, whoa, like it immediately. And it's the voice actress is a big part of it. I mean, the design is fine, and she looks very cute and innocent, and those things are important. Don't get me wrong, if she was like some evil looking character, maybe we wouldn't, I don't know, like her as much. But the voice actress, and again, I didn't obviously prepare enough to find out
Michelle
her name.
Ang.
Thank you, Jonah. That's why I have you on the show. There is an immediate charm to her voice that I'm not sure if she's South African. I can't tell.
No, New Zealander.
That's what it is. Okay, there's a slight accent, just so goddamn adorable. It's just like, oh, so cute, and she's as cute as a button. But with that, you immediately kind of connect because you want to protect her. And I think, but then there's, you know, she's become now the focus. It's not just a Bad Batch. And I think we all came in thinking like the Bad Batch is going to go in and be doing missions and being a little hard and stuff. And like, that's what we kind of thought. We didn't get that. And I think that's what, I think that's what's kind of turned everything around. It's even more. And we're getting this mystery with Omega. And I'm going to give this to Jonah again here, Tim, because Jonah loves Omega, and I have to give her the floor. I love the character. I know you love the character. Tell me why you love the character. I'm very curious, because I don't really know the details. I know you love her, but why do you?
Yeah, I love how sweet-natured she is. Like, I really adore when characters are just super endearing. And like what you said, I just want to protect her. Like, we must protect her at all costs, sort of a thing.
Agreed.
And I feel like Ezra, if he had been raised in a more, you know, with his parents and in a school setting, I feel like he would have been like Omega, because Omega is also a clone that is hyper aware. She has heightened awareness, which makes her have empathy on an extreme level. And that's as Ezra exactly. And I'm like, how do you guys not see this?
No, that's a good point. Think about that. You're right. Because Ezra, and that's one thing I liked about Ezra. But there's, and again, as an Ezra fan, I'm not, and like Justin, our good friend Justin said that he's one of the best Star Wars characters and whatever. And I definitely feel like I definitely love the character more and more as he's gone on. Especially season 4. I think season 4 is a phenomenal. He is so good in that. I mean, that's one of the best Star Wars things ever, in my opinion, is season 4 Rebels. It's fantastic, right, Jonah? Yeah. But no, you're right. There is empathy with her. It's immediate. So, but continue. Sorry, I don't mean.
Oh yeah, no. And then of course you see it play out in that scene in the brig with Crosshair, where she knows that he can't control what's happening to him. Mm-hmm. And I love moments like that where the character connects with other characters and sheds light when they're able to connect that way, and you're able to put yourself in her shoes. And I just love it when characters do that, and when they're written like that.
Yeah, totally. Tim, sounds like I think we both like Omega. We talked the other day. Yeah. So tell me what's your take on Omega. We'll get into Omega theories because I'm a big theory guy. We all know for years in the Force Awakens. I mean, Jonah probably muted me from all my theories from back in the day. I just kidding, Jonah. If you did, I don't blame you.
No, I never did that.
I know. They never did that. Oh no, I know.
No, I'm putting my phone away. That's why I had it.
Like unmute. Or if you're like me, unblock, right, Lily?
No.
Anyway, so Lily doesn't. She's not watching this. She don't care. But no. Tim, what was your take on Omega?
Yeah, I thought she had a great introduction in the premiere episode. Just right off the bat, just kind of how she's like a fangirl of the Bad Batch. Just how she immediately wanted to meet them, and just you felt that connection that they were going to have eventually later on, and I'm sure we're going to see over the course of the series too, just right away. And just like you said, just how like charming she was too. And
yeah,
one of my favorite moments of the episode is where she's just mimicking Hunter in his posture, his gestures, especially when they're trying to sneak around the corridor and he like does the hold signal and she does it right behind him. That stuff is just all great.
I love it so much.
Hold on. Jonah, will you please lift that up for a second? I was wondering, people, do you realize she made this in like a day? Probably. She was like, oh my God, and fell in love and made that in like 12 minutes probably. It
was literally like 30, 35, 40 minutes. It's all glue gun. Usually I sew with needle and thread.
It looks amazing. Looks amazing. And for those who don't know, when I found out my daughter was coming, and I immediately reached out to Jonah, and she made me a Tuca doll that I requested years ago, back in the celebration. I said, well, when I have a child, will you make me a Tuca doll? And she said, absolutely. And she kept her promise. And and as you can see, her power is amazing. She made that in like 12 minutes, like I said. Oh, this little thing with the glue gun. Oh my God. It's like, looks 100% screen accurate. We should hire you to be a prop person, for God's sake. God. Imagine if you actually had like quality, I'm not saying you don't have quality stuff, but
oh no, I bet if I had the tools, yeah, I would do a whole production line. Yeah.
But no, you'd be like your own Star Wars creature shop, man. Seriously. But anyway, Tim, we continue with Omega stuff.
No, yeah, just like I said, just how I thought it was just a great introduction, just how well she interacted and made these connections with the different members of the Bad Batch, and how I think she has the strongest connection, obviously, to Hunter, but yet she kind of had like a special moment with almost each members of the Bad Batch. I think we're going to see that continue throughout the course of the series as well.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. She kind of has her own little moment with everybody, and that's really interesting. And again, I don't think any of us I don't think anyone predicted before the trailer that this was going to be something that was going to be almost like a family dynamic, in a sense to where not just of like, 4 brothers or whatever, 5 brothers we didn't know about. Well, I didn't know about Crosshair. I try to keep spoiler free, people.
Unlike some people out there, we're going to be the same boat on that one, Paul.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Right. No, but I don't think anyone expected this kind of like fatherly kind of dynamic that they're all like my 4 dads, basically, right? And I don't mean that in a disparaging way by any means. I mean, it really is like what it's going to be. And there is something very fascinating about that, in my opinion. And I'm really excited to see where it goes. But I think, let's be real. I mean, I think without the mystery of Omega, she's still a fun character, and I like her. But a big part of it is the mystery. Like, what exactly is her connection? We know she's a clone, but to what extent? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what and again, I love mystery. And I also love when I love when things are connected. A lot of people don't like when things are quote unquote too small or make the galaxy too small and I must be connected. Blah, 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 blah. Which, okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's your opinion. My opinion is it's not what I want. I want it gives me more reason to invest in things when I know they're connected, when I know they're connected to a greater story. Again, that's my opinion. And I think it's evident that there's something uniquely special about Omega. And I think that's really exciting. I think it's really cool because what exactly is her, uniqueness and what exactly are the Kaminoans? I probably butchered that name. Kaminoans. Say, what am I doing? What am I doing? I can't pronounce anybody's name. Everyone knows this.
I thought you said chameleons at first.
I said Kaminoans. Kaminoans are, God damn it. Jonah just made me really embarrassed.
I'm so sorry.
No. I trust me. I embarrassed myself. I'll never forget. Quick side story. One of my first podcasts in the Modern Myth Media, I said Green Lantern Corp instead of Core. And I got drilled. And I was like, one of my friends.
No, yesterday,
what an idiot! Oh my god!
Just yesterday, I used the word genetical, and I thought that's not
awesome
a
word.
Is it? That's not a word.
No, it's not a word, but it's an awesome word. You made it up. It's great.
Yeah, I was just, I'm just gonna go with it.
As you should. No, I can't pronounce anything, and that's one thing I always feel embarrassed about being a podcaster. It's like, why are you podcast again? It's like, I don't know why I podcast anymore. But anyway,
because you want to share your love.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't hold it in. So. No, I think what I love about Star Wars is the theories and the anticipation and like debating. And I think that one thing about the weekly, again, the model for a while was the Netflix model, just to dump everything at once and consume it and be like, I think we all love I hate to say Game of Thrones, but the Game of Thrones model where every week was an event. We all got excited and we couldn't wait. And there was that, old school excitement of the water cooler event where everyone kind of every week, just shoot, whatever episode. And Twitter is the ultimate water cooler, right? Of fans coming together. And I think that's what's so exciting is, at least for some of us who are excited to talk about Omega and the theories of what she could be and what she can't be or whatever. There's something really, really unique that they're building towards. And after this, even today's episode and the second episode today, even further kind of shows me like, man, Omega, she's a really interesting character and only furthers, what exactly is going on. So Tim, I kind of have an idea a little bit what you might think. I don't know exactly, but what's your take on, like, do you have an Omega theory? Is there an alpha theory? Is there an Omega theory? Is there an alpha and Omega theory? Is there, I am the alpha. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I'm going crazy.
Yeah. To be honest, when I was first watching the episode, I wasn't really getting too caught up in speculation or theories.
You would say that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But because I was just captivated for what I was seeing on the whole premiere. So there'd be time to speculate later, which that time is now, I guess. But
that's right. You have to.
Yeah, just kind of after seeing the episode a few times and then just talking about it with different people, I'm kind of leaning towards the theory that she might be Palpatine's first kind of attempt or test at cloning someone who may be force sensitive.
Don't say that out loud. You're gonna upset a lot of people.
Should I leave now? I don't know.
No. I had a joke that I'm just gonna say right now is that she's a nobody. Anyone can be a clone. This is not the Jango Fett family. This is the anybody. Sorry, I had to say that.
That was a great tweet, by the way, Paul.
I had to say it. I had to say it again. I had to say it. So you had any more to add with your theory, sir?
That's just basically, I think, the gist of it, as far as kind of, because they didn't outright say it, but there were just like certain hints where you just kind of felt, well, maybe she could be force sensitive in a way, just in the way that even she kind of, you can look at it two different ways. When she was talking to Crosshair, kind of saying like, I know how you feel and kind of what you're going through. She could obviously be saying that for her experience as a defective clone or a different type of clone,
right,
so to speak. Or it could be like she senses it in him and his kind of turmoil that he's going through there. And then just the fact at the end where she was able to shoot out his blaster on her first try, and just that she said she never fired a blaster in her life, and it's kind of felt really natural to her. So just little hints like there. I don't think there are definite signs that yes, she's force sensitive, but it's stuff that made me think anyway that it can potentially lead down that line. And because we know Palpatine had to do some testing as far as cloning his body eventually, and some of that one that had to be force sensitive as well. So this maybe could be the first attempt at that, but we'll see if that ends up where it goes. But I don't know. That's not my main, I guess, focus on the series, or like I just where I'm thinking, I just can't wait till they reveal.
Don't be that person, Tim. Come on,
right now,
let him be.
I'm not like everybody else, but I'm just, I'm just kidding.
It's funny
because going into the show how my anticipation for it just mainly how it's going to focus.
It's all clones. I get it.
Exactly, clones in this new era where dealing with the end of the Clone Wars and dealing with not being part of the Empire. That's the most fascinating aspect for me. So that's what I'm loving about the series the most.
You get a pass. You get a pass. Jonah, what first you can react to Tim or give your own alpha thing, or just go for it.
Yeah, so going to the force sensitive idea, that's actually what I thought was going to happen going into the show, where I remember writing about how my theory is that Omega is one of those children that in Star Wars The Clone Wars and in Star Wars Rebels, Palpatine had kidnapped or was trying to kidnap.
Oh, yeah.
And experiment on. Like, we never really got...
that's a good point.
Yeah, that's true.
An explanation out of that. Like, why were they... And, some people theorize it was because of the Inquisitorius the Inquisitors. And so they were being transformed into that. But it could also be, thinking back to The Mandalorian and baby Grogu on the table, it could also be that they were trying to experiment, see if they can harness force sensitivity as a way to, put all that science in there to see if you can replicate it. And maybe Omega totally is this, and we're seeing like an earlier like a different experimentation that Grogu is somewhere out there that has also gone through something similar, maybe. So I don't know. It's just things that I like to think about, and hopefully we'll see come true at some point. There's too much mystery going on, I think, and something needs to be ironed out and fleshed out.
Yeah.
So.
But that's what I think we love about Star Wars, is that there is that greater mystery, and even from the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, to to the sequel trilogy, there's always some kind of how are things going to work? In the original trilogy is Luke's father. When Vader gets revealed, what does that mean? And how did that happen? Whatever. There's always this anticipation, and then the prequel trilogy, it's how did you already know what's going to happen, but when nice cat, your cat, Tim, your cat had to make an appearance. He's like, nope, you're on camera. He's like, screw that.
I moved some stuff around, so he's trying to find a new spot to sit.
Oh, poor guy.
That's your own Chuka, your own lost cat.
Yeah, exactly. But and in the prequel trilogy, it's like, how is Palpatine going to get everything the way he wants it to be? And then there was always like, how is it going to happen? And then sequel trilogy, obviously Rey and Kylo Ren, and just there's a mystery among all kinds of things, to be quite frank. So I feel like that's to me is what makes Star Wars so special, is like, there's always this anticipation. And again, I'm not saying like Omega has to be this big deal, but it definitely, there is a sense of something unique about her, and I love that. And what does that mean? And because it could mean all kinds of things, and I think that's what's really exciting about where that could go. And like you guys kind of talked about too, is the cloning thing. It definitely feels like that's a big part of it, because this very well could be the first clone that maybe is potentially force sensitive, that that Palpatine won't even know about. Like, no one will know about it. And this is maybe what the Kaminoans, did I say it right that time? But maybe they're able to keep it under wraps, but I have a feeling they're going to get pummeled like any episode. Like, it's just going to be like, it feels like there's going to be a natural, we're going to see the Bad Batches. It feels like this to me. It feels like it's going to be a literal transition from the Clone Wars to like the Dark Times. So meaning, like, how in the end of Clone Wars we had like the fade, and then we had the whatever the Empire was there, and then we had the great ending. Well, it feels like it's gonna be kind of like that, but like without seeing the fade. It's just gonna be a gradual, every episode we're gonna be a gradual thing to stormtrooper armor and the ships and things like that. It's gonna be a more gradual kind of change to that. If it's allowed to go on that long. That's what it feels like to me anyway. And I wonder that this is going to be the Camino people are just going to get destroyed at some point by stormtroopers. That's what it feels like.
That'd be a tough episode to watch.
right. But it kind of feels that's the way it needs to happen, at least from a thematic standpoint, because that's be the OT coming in and destroying what came before it. Because does that make sense?
It's sort of like when they killed off the separatists, like that group where Anakin just assassinated everyone. So I can see that definitely happening, especially they don't want that kind of knowledge or something like that. I mean, there are, I'm assuming, clone businesses out there, but maybe not to the extent that the
clone businesses
organizations
over here. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it makes me wonder too, because as we know in the Mandalorian, we have the cloners there with the same
with the same logo. Yeah, Dr. Pershing.
Yeah, I couldn't think of his name. Thank you. But just wondering if like they're still connected to Camino, or if like that's kind of what you're talking about, the aftermath once maybe the Empire gets rid of Camino and this new group kind of springs off from them, and they're just strictly working for the Empire, trying to maybe do what they can with, obviously experimenting with Grogu's blood and who knows with other stuff.
Yeah. One thing I know for sure is that we as fans can't really hold on to our theories the way that we normally do. And I know I can't speak because sometimes I do experience that, like, why didn't this happen? But yeah, I hope and I know it's not going to happen, but I really wish fans wouldn't get so attached to their headcanons and theories. And then when they see it happen and they go online and rant about it because it didn't go the way that they wanted. Which actually kind of brings us into like the comic conversation,
beautiful segue. Oh my God. Beautiful segue. Continue.
Oh, no. I mean, I thought you would, take the lead on that. Okay.
No. Yeah, no. And just to kind of say about the theory thing, you're absolutely right. You shouldn't be beholden enough to, I mean, if you don't like a story where it goes, and that you don't like a story where it goes, I mean, whether or not it's your theory or not, Ray definitely didn't go any theories that I thought I wanted to have happen. But ultimately, as you guys know, as I love this movie to death, I'm actually really glad what we got. And, and it did take a movie that I didn't love or still love to get there. And that's fine. But in retrospect, I'm very thankful that I got what I got, even though it's not exactly what I anticipated. And that's the thing. You got to be open to it. And you may not love it initially. You may not love where it was going, but maybe you'll love the end result regardless. And that's the kind of thing you got to be open to. And again, if you don't like it, it's not a big deal. You just move on. And then it's hard because when you love something, when you love something as much as Star Wars, it's easy to like get bummed out and kind of ruin a little bit. It is. It's very easy. It almost did for me in Last Jedi. It honestly did. It was really hard because not just my own theories, but other things about it. But I had to learn and grow, and I just kind of stuck with it. And sure enough, Star Wars kept putting out stuff that I loved. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, and that's me with the possible sequel animated Rebels thing not panning out the way that we thought, and that it's going to be a live action story of sorts with the Ahsoka series. So I completely understand where fans come from with that whole, like, I need to see this happen, and then feeling completely, tossed aside because it's not going to pan out the way that you want. But at the same time, like you said, we can't really be beholden to those things.
And give it a fair shot. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. It's no big deal. And the thing about you, I know, is you'll go into it and you'll be excited about it.
I'll probably just end up loving it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Things that I love, and then elaborating that in my head, because I'm such a huge imagination kind of person that I go off on my own.
You're definitely a huge imagination, Jonah. That's what I love that about you. So Jonah alluded to it already, and as our last thing we'll talk about, it is something that I love talking to both of you about, because I mean, both are very good friends of mine, and I both respect, and you guys both have different aspects of the story and continuity. Me and Tim are comic book people. Jonah, you're the animation person, and what they did in that first episode was definitely change some things. And a lot of people, and I called it a retcon at first. And I know I teased Jonah, I winked at her and said, but is it a retcon? We don't know. And me and Tim kind of talked about this the other day. And that, of course, was, and I'll bring up here. Oh gosh, I'm sure more organized. Is going to be the canon comic book itself here. And one thing I have to talk about is a lot of people and were surprised that this went a lot different than we were anticipating with the canon comic book, and how in the Bad Batch show up. And it is a little bit different than what the comic book gives us. And Tim, I'm so sorry the page is covering up your face. But that's okay.
For the best.
Yeah, oh, stop it. But that being said, there's a lot of mixed reaction on this. And I was telling Jonah earlier that, I really do think that we have a really good grasp on, I think, the best way to interpret this. You may not love what, I may say, but I think it makes the most sense. And everyone has their own 2 cents about this. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's fine. But really, I want to really paint this picture the best way possible. And this is coming from someone who has a channel, is a broadcasting from, called The Comic Bin. So I take canon. I have a thing called the canon shelf, for God's sakes, and I still have to update it. I'm updated as far as getting the stuff, but regardless, I need to get it updated more. I love the comic books. And when they did wipe the slate clean, and they said everything counts, it was a big deal. And I think that was a smart move. Now, you could argue with this and other things we'll get into in a second, that's not the case. Is this a tier or whatever? I don't think so. And this is the way I see it. Okay. Star Wars from the very beginning with George has never stuck to the same things. He's, for better or for worse, has changed things in his own movies, much less the books and the comic books. Let's be real. I mean, small example. Okay. Empire Strikes Back. Ben, the Jedi Master instructed me. Yoda. I'm obviously butchering everything, but he's like, go see Master Yoda. Oh, the guy who instructed me. Everyone's like, oh, Obi-Wan's master is Yoda. I can't wait to see the prequels and see what Master Yoda does for Obi-Wan Kenobi's training. Oh, Qui-Gon? Oh. All right. What happened to Yoda? Oh, okay. Yoda's like his buddy, I guess. That's what instructed him, I guess. Like, so when he says he instructed him, he gave him like orders, to hang out. Like, you're gonna hang out with Obi-Wan or we're gonna hang out with Anakin Skywalker and Qui-Gon Jinn, and it's like, he instructed me. It's like, why would he tell Luke that? Why would you say Luke's my buddy Yoda? That's what you said. It's my buddy Yoda. Go see my buddy Yoda on Dagobah.
One could argue, yeah, like what Tim said, but also that in the Yoda arc of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, we know that Yoda learned the ability to preserve his identity after deth, and we know that Yoda and Qui-Gon were also teaching him this. So,
well, you know what?
You could find something that
from a certain point of view.
No, right.
From a certain point of view, yeah.
But that's the whole point, though, because the retcons and all of that that's what it is. It's and again, that is the total retcon. See, and this is the difference between that and something like the canon reveal in Bad Batch. That is something different. Is it a retcon as far as no, it's retelling it differently. It's a literal retelling of the story. In the comic book, and this is why I love what they're doing. And this is why I think most people should be okay with what they're doing, because let's be real. Even if they wanted to be beholden to every single thing in the books and the comic books, we are imperfect people by nature. There's going to be contradictions at some point. And there's one thing that I think that I totally appreciate, and I think anyone can appreciate, is that you want to give people artistic license and you want to give them the freedom to tell a story. But, the difference between for instance, I'm going to bring this up here. Where's the first page at? I want to make sure. Is this it? No, it's not it. Sorry, guys. Hold on a second. Where is it? That's not it either. This is here. I'm trying to find the right page because he actually says the planet, and it's important. That's not either. Gosh darn it. I forgot to save it. I suck. Anyway, I'll go back to this one if I want to. So, is it Keller?
Keller, yeah.
Keller. So this is on Keller, and this is from the comic book, obviously. And as you can see here, this is a little bit different from the planet, but it's the same planet name. It's still, and if you look at both the show and the comic book, still rocky surfaces. And there are there's a little bit differences. Now, the biggest difference would be the Bad Batch show up, and there's not this great. I love this part in the comic book. There's not this. It's during the day. It's not at night, and and it's things happen a little bit differently. But a lot of things still happen. They turn on the clones turn on Depa Billaba and Caleb Dune, and she tells them to run. All those things are all the same things that happen in the comic book. Just like in the comic book, he also runs away from the clones and then winds up, I'm assuming, with this guy.
Janice Casimir.
Exactly. Now, I say all that because this is the thing. None of that contradicts the comic book from a standpoint of the main points.
Mm-hmm.
The finer details are contradicted, just like we talked about in the Clone Wars series, this last season with the Ahsoka novel and the end of the Mandalore arc. It happens a little bit differently. It's still the Mandalore. They're still on Mandalore. There was still a conflict that they alluded to from the book. It's just different. And are we really going to be that upset over something like that? Because it'd be different. And me and Tim talked about this too, right? The other day, I said, it'd be different if they, if this was Lucas. Now, this is what Lucas would do. He would take, and this is Tim. I'm going to steal Tim's. Tim said he'd have a different master. He'd be on a completely different planet, and they'd have different circumstances for all kinds of things. And that's not the case here. They stick with the planet. They stick with everything's almost very, very, very similar. There's just a little bit of differences. And is that going to contradict the story of Kanan that much in the end? No. It's still the same story. So that, to me, that kind of loose idea of canon, and again, Lucas had the same idea, and it's been going on for a while. And what was the other thing, besides the Darth Maul and Ahsoka thing from the novel in the last arc of Clone Wars? Was there something else I want to say? Was it a move? It was Rise of Skywalker, where they were Poe's a spice runner. And and what's her name says, oh my God, I forgot her name. Zori. I want to call her Zoe. Zori was like, close enough. You left our group to be a spice runner. And everyone's like, well, they contradicted oh my God. It's like, you can easily fit that around a certain way. I know there's a young adult novel, which I did not read. Young adult, that novel did not appeal to me. Just, whatever. Just no offense to anybody. Just didn't want to read it. That being said, maybe it did bridge that gap. I don't know. I'm not sure if you read it, Jonah, or not. But
no, I haven't. I want to say that it did. I just know that the whole Spice Runner thing upset a lot of people because he is a Latino actor, and to be given a very stereotypical role didn't sit well with a lot of people. So I know there's that the fact that canonically it just doesn't add up, but also just from an outside perspective, it's like ooh.
Yeah, and again, I forgive me. I did not have that pretension.
Oh no, that's fine. I don't expect everyone to think of that immediately.
And I feel bad now saying that, but at the same time, I didn't mind it. Like I was like, okay, he had a checkered past. Like he tried something different. I mean, and that's very common for a lot of people. I mean,
it's true.
I mean, Han Solo. I mean, he was running spice and things like that. So I mean, that's what I kind of took it as. Like they try to give him a little more of a Han Solo edge. Yeah. Again, that's just my interpretation of it, and that's. I don't that's saying the right way or whatever, but that being said, it's still contradicted and they had to fit it in the continuity. But in the end, did it contradict Poe as a whole? No. Was it it wasn't a complete left field thing. Were you able to fit it in and give it some kind of validity and still have the previous stuff still matter? Is it a perfect fit? No. But does it completely contradict? I don't think so. And I think if it's not a complete 100% contradiction and we're not getting that on a consistent basis, it's going to happen from time to time. It's just reality. When Star Wars is shifting around as much as it does, you're going to have those things. If it's a linear story, like people have said before, it'd be easier to keep track of everything. But when you're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, there's going to be some artistic license. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. As long, in my opinion, as it stays as consistent as it can to the main points as possible, that's what's important. And I think if they do that, they're able to, I think, keep the credibility of canon because it's important to me. I love when things are connected. And again, and this is coming from someone who doesn't care that Kanan met the Bad Batch instead of, in the comic book where he was, by himself. I don't care. Like we still see this is an important part. He still finds the Jarrus character.
Yeah, which is way after he runs away from the Bad Batch. Yeah.
And I think this kind of opens up the idea that, sure, it doesn't all have to be 100% the same, point A to point B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever. It can be in general, and then maybe you can adapt those stories and be like, okay, they can also add in some stuff too that doesn't, again, contradict the comic book. Maybe just adds to it in a way, like a Bad Batch. Like, I'll be honest, the fact that Kanan Jarrus is more tied to the Bad Batch now makes it a more that whole story part more interesting to me as a character. Now, I love what happens to him afterwards in the comic book, and then that still is canon unless it's contradicted later on. If they keep that consistency as far as like keeping the things minimal and only do it when it matters and when it counts, like this, I think it's going to be fine. I think most people will accept it. It's when you're like, let's be honest, a George Lucas who comes in and just tramples over everything. And again, that's going to upset people. That's what people are afraid of. And this is not that, not by any means. This is actually honoring what's come before it. And let's keep this in mind too. And I'm talking a long time. I'm sorry. I'm on my soapbox. But let's be real here. What did Lucasfilm just launch recently? Like, that's in the books and the comic books. It's the High Republic, right? This is a giant thing they're promoting. You think they want people to think that like this doesn't matter in the continuity? Like this doesn't matter? No, not by any means. Like they want people to know what they buy like has some like reverence to like Star Wars in general. I mean, they're selling it like that. I mean, heck, the Acolyte is a High Republic show. It's based in that. So again, will they be beholden to everything in the books and the comic books? Probably for the most part, but they probably will dive or maybe change a few things as the years go on. And I don't think it's going to be a problem as long as it stays consistent. But let's be real. They're not going to want to waste all that and all that time and energy and money and doing all these things for the High Republic just to contradict it later on in the Acolyte. That's not going to happen. It's just not. It just doesn't make business sense. I mean, again, if you're like George Lucas and you own everything and you can do what the hell you want, yeah, sure, you can do that because you're George Lucas. But this is a lot more calculated in a good way, in my opinion. So that's where I think people should just relax a little bit. Definitely. But I think really just relax in a sense to where, yes, expect there's gonna be some contradictions and maybe not love everything they add or whatever. But at the same time, if it keeps 75% of the books and the comic books as like actual continuity, wouldn't you say that's a win?
Yeah, I would think so. I process the whole thing differently. Like ever since the Ahsoka novel, I remember being a bit miffed about that. Like, oh no, they changed things. Yeah, it was very privately. Like I didn't really go online to talk about it. My best friend knows, who's probably watching right now. Elisa, hi.
Lisa.
But where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so I have this. Oh, there she is.
Hi, Lisa.
So I have the way that I process it is that there's a true version, like a canonical version, and then there's a version that I like to think of it as like like how in a game of telephone you tell a story and then by the time it gets to the end it's completely different.
Yes.
So I like to think that one version is that, like sort of like a historian, my friend mentioned the historian part, kind of like writes his version or their version of the story. And that's how I take it. Like for me, I love the comic book more. I like what they did with the show. But I love the comic book just for the added details and for the discussions and whatnot and just the overall beauty of it. And so that to me, that's my canonical version. That's what I choose to see. I'm not going to, I love Lucasfilm, but I'm not going to let them dictate to me. Like, that I think that's the thing that people let themselves get. They feel like now they have to, ignore the comics and now just observe or like take that part in the show to heart. I mean, and you don't really need to. I mean, I like the comic version. That's the one that I want to adhere to. So, and then the one in the show could be the adaptation of that, and it doesn't have to conflict. Like I went back to the panels, and there's this group of 5 guys who are off to the side when Kanan's running up the hill. And I'm like, that could be the Bad Batch. I don't know. It's just fun to see different versions of it, and like you said, there's a license, artistic license there, and artistic interpretation. You don't want to stay nailed down to it. I don't think, at least if I wanted to be part of that project, I would want to change things up as well too.
Yeah. To give
and I know, and Dave Filoni seems like the kind of guy who wants to see his vision unfold. So I just there's so many things in life to be mad about, and this isn't one of the ones that I chose for myself. Like I'm just gonna let it go.
and before I let Tim speak as he needs to, and I just want to add one last thing to that, is that, and again, it's not like they went in there and totally recontradicted everything like Lucas used to do, or he just bulldozed everything. They actually went and gave the same planet. It's like almost like it's very similar, but it's just tweaked a little bit. I almost feel like they gave the snow and the trooper. If you noticed, the trooper in the comic book is red, but in this one he's green.
Yeah.
I also, for those who are really crazy, if you ever seen the Shining documentary, people, like, I almost feel like maybe they watched the Shining documentary because, long story short, hold on a second. There's a part where in The Shining is based on a book on Stephen King. The family drives a red Volkswagen, and in the movie they drive a green one. Okay, and at one point they see a red station wagon like on its side, like almost like saying an F you to Stephen King. It's a crazy documentary. But I like the idea that, like, I wonder if that whoever did this, if it's all coincidental, but it's literally like what they did is like kind of like not like an FU, but like a hey, we're different. This is the green version, whatever.
I imagine they changed it because the red, you assume they're Coruscant Guard, like that's the what we've assumed are the storm the clone troopers.
Dang, that's good.
Like that's how we've come to know it in the show. So to see them in there with Caleb and Depa, it would be kind of confusing for some people, maybe. So they want to distinguish the color to something. But then,
and then you made a comment about that in the episode, the Bad Batch scene, like the shock troopers on Camino, how that was such a surprise.
Man, I just got dunked on by Jonah, dude.
No,
it's good. I love you. I need to be dunked on. I think anyone listen to me knows
at least that's what I assume. Like they want to have some distinguished colors there.
No, totally. Tim, what's your take on the canon thing? I know we talked a little bit about it, but I'm curious if you've changed since we talked, or enlighten us your views, my friend.
Yeah, I was really curious going into the premiere because on social media I tried to stay away from most spoilers, but there was one word I kept saying on there: retcon.
Oh.
And then right when I saw Depa Billaba, I was like, okay, I know what the retcon's going to be involved with. So I was preparing myself. But here's the thing: watching the episode, it was been a while since I read that Kanan comic and knew the exact details of what went down. Obviously, I knew the clone troopers turned on him and Depa Billaba, but like what planet they were on, like when exactly it happened, like that stuff I didn't remember while watching it. So I was really curious to go back and read that first issue to see just how different it was. And then kind of like you were saying, Paul, they didn't change too much of it when you really look at it. Just, of course, when it happened and the situations of how it happened. And this is actually something where I'm kind of torn on, because I did like how it went down in the comic, where it was just such a relaxing moment between the clone troopers with their Jedi just having conversation, and then some of the clone troopers having some fun with Caleb, where like poking fun at him about asking too many questions. And then you just see the the camaraderie, if I still can't say it, but their bond that they have with the clone troopers and the Jedi, and then just to immediately see it turn so instantly with Order 66, it was just like heartbreaking to read that on the panels and the pages as you were reading that comic. So I did like how it played out there, but then I also like how the Bad Batch and how they get thrown into it, and how Caleb interacted with them, as far as Hunter was genuinely trying to help him and to try to save him from what's going on. And the fact that him and Crosshair went to go find him, and then Crosshair turns on him and is feeling the effects of Order 66, where maybe for a little bit, Caleb felt maybe he can trust him, but once Crosshair shot at him, it just threw all that out the window. And then it just, I think, greater enhances to that episode in Rebels where he sees Rex, Wolf, and Gregor for the first time and just immediately ignites his lightsaber. He says, like, they're clones. Like, we cannot trust them at all. So to me, on a level, it just adds more to that. And I love that about this. So yeah, it's kind of where some of you kind of have to pick and choose what you choose to kind of view as the way you want to interpret it. And I will admit to it, I can't help but feel that it is a little bit of annoying sometimes when these things do happen, especially when they made such a big deal about the new canon when they first announced they were putting everything as legends and everything moving forward is going to count as of happening in the Star Wars universe. So when you see little tricks like this happen, a few instances, it is a little bit annoying when it happens, but when you look at the big picture, it really is something that it's not worth getting too upset or hung up about as far as ruining your experience, I think, as far as enjoying these great stories. Because really, all these instances we're talking about, Siege of Mandalore, Cobb Vanth, and now here with
Cobb
Order
Vanth,
66 with Depa Billaba.
That's what I was thinking of. Like,
it's
Mandalorian?
They're all great stories, regardless of what happened. And that's the thing I think you still got to look at the most, is that it doesn't change just how great these stories are being told with these great characters that we're seeing. So it can be a little bit annoying, but at the same time, it doesn't take away from, at least for me, my enjoyment as far as the grander scheme of things when you look at the story as a whole.
And there was something, I'm sorry, there was something that Dave Filoni had said in an interview way back, and he was talking about Boba Fett and whether he was Mandalorian or not. And, and he was talking about how it doesn't, whatever I say, people are going to choose what they want to believe. And I think this is what it is. People are going to choose what they want to see, what they want to believe. For me, like how I said earlier, for me, it's the comic. For other people, it might be what we see in the show. And it all really just comes down to what you want. And, don't let canon weigh you down, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the I love the Freemaker Adventures. I love that show. And it all takes place in Lego. Like that. And I like to think that those characters, those stories also happen in conjunction with everything else that I love that's canonical. So I consider them canon characters. I like to think that, and other people will definitely disagree with me. But it's up to what I want. It's up to what I want to see.
Well, and again, I want to make it very clear that I think having a continuity is important. I think we all agree there. Yes. And I think that I think you said it best, Tim, is that it's the bigger picture. You're right. It does bum you out when it's not like I said before, it's not 90%. It's maybe closer to 75% accurate as far as being one cohesive continuity. But 75% of the bigger picture is pretty good if you think about it. And I think that's what they're batting. And again, going back to the Cobb Vanth thing is a great example. It definitely interprets things a little bit differently. But in the end, he still gets the armor from the Jawas from, in the sand crawler. You don't have the crystals, I don't think, or whatever. But is that going to make the book worse? No. Does it make the show worse? I didn't follow the book completely? No. Does it still get from point A to point B, what you need to? Yes. So it's like, I mean, yeah, you can split hairs and argue about it doesn't have the blah, 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 blah. It doesn't have this, blah, blah, blah. You can argue those things, but in the end, at least you're arguing about that, not that like Cobb Vanth came in from Dagobah and he has his armor. How did he get that? We have no idea. Like, that's what George would do. He just would bulldoze it and not even care. He'd be like, I like this character, but I'm going to take my own spin on it and be a completely different person. It's like, okay. I mean, it's not exactly the smartest thing to do from a I think advertising standpoint, but that's your thing, George. But I think they're going about it the right way. Okay. And I think this is going to be the biggest test. Do you guys remember the K2SO and Cassian Andor comic book that came out?
Oh, yeah.
I don't, because I remember I did not like that issue. So I'm actually is a retcon in the Andor.
Right. But here's the thing. Will it be like again? I'm very curious how they do it. Watch, they never do it. They're just too chicken. But no, I mean, will they even? I agree with you, Tim. I wasn't a big fan of that comic book, unfortunately. But will they have again those other characters that are with them? Will it be on the same planet? If it does something like that, I can get behind it more. I think it will bum me out if it just kind of goes screw this one shot comic book. But at the same time, again, if that's just one shot comic book, that's fine. But I think in my opinion, again, going back to our this is the comic bench channel, the comic books have, I think, been pretty good for the most part. I mean, there's been stinkers here or there, sure, but the comics, I think, have done a great job of enriching, especially Darth Vader. Oh my God. I mean, like it would be a damn shame if they were like, well, it's a different tier system. It's like, that would piss me off because the Darth Vader comics are so good and they do such a great job of informing the character. And again, if they were ever to adapt those into like an animated show or something, and again, it was like, wasn't verbatim exactly the same, every detail the same, but kept the essence of what made those stories like what I loved to somewhat close to that degree, I'd be happy with that. Like, that's all I need. So, and that's the thing. I think if you get that as close as you can to 100%, and the closer you are to 100%, I think the more people will be satisfied. And I think that, and this is the one thing I think people got to realize, this last year is literally like, they're like dropped all these crazy I won't say inconsistent, but like kind of like contradictory story things in 1 year. The Rise of Skywalker, Mandalorian, like all that stuff to get out to, it's all within like a year of each other. Like it's kind of crazy. It's like, man, maybe they kind of said, you know what, we need to let off the gas a little bit and just kind of like let things kind of figure themselves out.
Yeah, something that my friend Sal Perales mentioned at one point when talking to him about this was that he vaguely remembers Pablo when he was on Twitter talking about how when it comes to canon, what's important are the beats that are the same.
That's a great point.
And then everything else is a bit more fluid. And so they should have just maybe clarified that from the very beginning, just so that people wouldn't feel the way that they're feeling right now. And of course, people are completely in their own right. Yeah, valid to feel the way that they feel. I hope we're you don't feel like we're telling you that you shouldn't be feeling this way. This is just how I feel. No, totally. But yeah, I think that's what's people just need to consider, I think, from now on, how Pablo just said, beats, everything else fluid. And it could be, somebody else's interpretation later on. Totally. So,
Tim, you have anything to add on that?
Just one little thing. I mean, going back to kind of viewing it as an interpretation, it's kind of like for like an in-universe type thing. Just got to look at the very first words we see every time we see a Star Wars movie. The first thing, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And it's a long time ago. There might be different interpretations of these stories and events that happen in that galaxy. So when you kind of look at it like that, is kind of a good way to know that even though certain things might not line up perfectly all the times in these different adaptions, it's still, like we were all talking about, the main thrust of the stories and points that they're trying to get across, those are always still there, even with those minor changes that sometimes take place.
Yeah. And Jordan Mason on Twitter talked about how Star Wars is a mythology, and we know that mythologies can vary, and there are different interpretations and whatnot. So I just thought that was a genius comment.
Yeah, no, exactly. I great. I think everyone, and honestly, the fact that Pablo has actually got on record and saying that only gives validity to the fact what they're doing, what we've been talking about, the fact that, and I agree with you, Jonah, they probably should have announced that a little bit more, like, and then like let's do a press screen, or not screening, but
press conference.
It might have been a bit hard to. I guess it would have been a bit hard to
explain it.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
What does
with
that mean, really?
Yeah. But the one thing I will say, that him saying that as long as the beats are there, that's exactly what we said about Cobb Vanth. That's exactly what we said about this Kanan thing. Is that fact that the comic book beats are still there. They're all there. He still leaves, and it's on the same freaking planet. And again, and this is what I would say, that I wish they would have maybe made a little more of an announcement. But what I think what they're doing is they're kind of just showing us they're showing us, they're not telling us, they're showing us, like, this is what we're doing. Like, it's not going to be 100% on the money all the time, but it's going to still matter. Like, those comics are still going to matter. Those story points still exist. And until they're completely contradicted otherwise. So I totally get people saying like, well, it isn't 100% accurate. I get their frustration with it, but it's not what the other people are also saying. Like, I told you the comics never counted. It's like, I'm like, dude, just read, like, look at the comic book. It literally like divulges one time, and then he runs off and still has the adventures that we know in the comic book. I mean, go ahead.
What I do appreciate though, like even if they go with their, their own interpretations, what I do appreciate is that after this, I mean, even Tim said that he went back to the comic to read it. This is going to motivate people to go back to read it. Just like how Ahsoka, I wasn't a huge fan of the whole live action Ahsoka appearance in The Mandalorian, but I do appreciate that people went back to the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels to watch that stuff, especially people who are of the mentality that, that stuff is for children. I'm an adult here. I don't need to be watching that. So I like that. This is motivating people to go back and read that stuff and get a different interpretation of it.
No, exactly. Yeah. I think that if this is what they're going to be doing going forward and the beats are all still there, I don't think any of us can really complain. I honestly don't. And again, I think it is a factual, and at this point right now, it's a factual thing of like the comics still matter. The books still matter. And again, you go to the High Republic, they're not going to contradict that and say that doesn't matter. That's a different tier. People are going to be like, why am I buying this then? They want reason you have a continuity and a canon is so people can invest in your universe. That's the whole point. And again, if you have things not matter, and again, maybe it's like there's some things for like Spider-Man and like Marvel's a great example that they had different universes and that can work. But what survives? The Ultimate Universe didn't survive. It eventually became its own, and honestly, it didn't. It did.
Yeah, I know it did.
Yeah, it came right back to the Marvel 616, baby.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point, right? It's like people want to invest in something and see it grow and to know their favorite stories from these books and these ancillary material. They still matter, and they always will matter. There's legend stories right back there that I freaking love. And I'll never, even though it's not in continuity, I still love it as Star Wars sales. There's nothing, you can't take that away from anybody.
Yeah.
But right now, again, I understand people's frustration, but these comics and these books, as of this point, until they show us otherwise, and I say show, like they will have one story about Lando doing one thing in a comic and they completely George Lucas it and go a completely different direction. I just don't see it's going to happen. And again, I just don't make the exception of it would be probably the K2SO story. It's probably going to be right. It's probably going to be bulldozed. And I don't think anyone's going to complain about that. I don't think so. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if the beats are all still there, that there's still a lot of similarities there. And if that's it, then you know what, then the comics matter, the books matter. And I still think they do. And I'm excited for them because, on the comic bench, we'll be diving into more comic books at some point with Star Wars, which I will have with my buddy Scott Rifen at some point. We have a thing we're working on, and I'm hoping to get Jonah on this so we can do this at some point, Jonah. So nice. I pretty much, Tim, you gotta read this. You guys read this. This is one of the best Star Wars comics ever made. God damn it. Like, this is amazing.
I know. I'm still like, I've got it started with the golden age of the Sith and never continue on after that.
We'll skip golden age of the Sith. Rough. I think that's rough.
There's some great ideas in there, I think, but
fantastic ideas. Also looks rough. So,
actually, now that you mention some great ideas, it reminds me of like how they go back to the expanded universe to Legends and dig out some things that they then translate into canon. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're just doing something similar with the current stories and finding what works, and then it's just everything that we've talked about. But at the end of the day, it's what you choose to want to. Right. I mean, just because they focus on it doesn't mean you shouldn't, continue loving the thing that you love, or like what you did, what you invested in was a waste of time. It was not a waste of time. No, you probably spent time talking to people about that and it made your day. Like, that's important.
Yeah. And again, I think what they're doing as of right now is the best of both worlds. You're giving people freedom to tell things artistically, and you're also still adhering to their canon, and its story beats are there. That is, to me, the perfect. It's Baby Bear. It's right. It's just right. And I love using that analogy, but that's what it is. It really is. Don't you laugh at me, Jonah Marie. Don't you laugh at me.
I was like, where's he going with that? And then I thought, oh, Goldilocks.
Goldilocks. Come on. It's Baby Bear. It's just right. Like, that's what it is. It's just, you stop that.
Yeah.
No, I think it's perfect. And like I said, I don't think we're gonna have to anything to worry about with this stuff. And the comics are great. We're gonna be reviewing more of the comics on upcoming live streams with me and Scott. We'll be doing I'll have somewhat of an announcement with that at some point. We've talked about that. I'll have Jonah and other people do random stuff too with our Tales of the Jedi stuff. And I honestly I want to have you back in soon, guys, so we can do this. It's a lot of fun. Talking about Bad Batch. This has been great. We'll come back in maybe a couple weeks. We'll do it again, review a couple episodes, maybe see what other controversies they might have up with contradictions of comic books. You know, I don't know.
I'm totally up for talking about Dad Hunter. Yeah, let's do it.
I know you are. God. Leave it to Jonah. She's got a whole. She loves Grandpa Rex. She loves Dad Hunter. She loves Baby Ezra, Baby Omega. She's got a whole family. She's like conjured up here.
Yeah,
you know,
they're all in here.
I get it. No, I get it. It's awesome. So, guys, thanks so much for coming on and doing this. And everyone who's watched, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a blast. These live streams are so like I have no idea how they're going to go down, and they just I regardless if people like them or don't, I have a blast, especially with you guys. So this has been phenomenal. Jonah, where can people find you, follow you, praise you? Because that's what they need to do. Give us the goods.
So listeners can find me on Twitter with the hashtag @DaddyHunterFan. No, it's at Blue. Don't look up Daddy Hunter. I don't know where that will lead you.
Oh God. oh, I can see the. Oh no, the Tumblr sites alone.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Like Star Wars Daddy. It's like, oh, I love Raylo. I'm gonna type that in for.
No. Listeners can find me on Twitter with the @ sign at
the @ sign
Blue Jake. See, it's after 12 right now, and I feel like I'm
so sorry, Jonah. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. But it's at Blue Jake Eyes, and you can also listen to me and my mom talk about Star Wars on the Geeky Bubble Pod. And I also currently write for dorksideoftheforce.com. So in case you ever wanted to read about Star Wars from my perspective, you can find that there.
And it's a great perspective, people. And I mean that. I mean it, because Jonah's only going to give you her perspective. It's never maliciousness with Jonah. And I know that for a fact. Like there's not a malicious bone in your body. So people can know when they read your stuff, they listen to your stuff. And that's why people love you, is that, again, you may not agree with everything you say or like everything you love, but they know that you never feel, there's never a maliciousness of like, if you disagree, it's always a point of like, oh, I just don't like it as much as you know? and I think that to me is such a lost art in today, like in everybody. I mean, like including me, I try to be like that, but it's really hard. So Jonah, you're awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Tim, you old rascal, you know, where can people find you at, huh? Tell us.
You can find me on Twitter at TimG311, where I pretty much just been gushing about the Bad Batch all week. So if you just want to hear me say how much I love about the Bad Batch, you can check me out on Twitter. And then follow me and Paul and Kyle's Star Wars podcast at Star Wars TSC, Star Wars The Saga Continues, where I'm sure we'll be talking about the premiere and the first episode of the Bad Batch for more than 3 hours, I think, give or take.
Man, it's good, dude. This was like an hour. We're at an hour and a half, right? Imagine with me, you, and Kyle. It's going to be like literally a day. You know, seriously.
Because there were things that we didn't talk about, so I can only imagine.
Oh yeah,
This
is just a very casual, just kick it, conversation. We went an hour and a half because I can't shut up. But I mean, like, when the three of us get on, oh my god! Like our Rise of Skywalker podcast was like what, 6 hours long?
7.
Excuse me, 7 hours long.
That is nearly a full-time. That is a full-time job. Our lunch isn't paid.
we split it up. We did 4 hours one day, and we did 5, I think, the next. And
we did it all in one day, Paul. It was one night. We took like a little break to get something to eat, but then we came right back on.
Did you guys come back? Was it all in one day?
Yeah.
Because I left at some point, so I was like, guys, I'm out.
You did live like the last 45 minutes, something like that.
Okay, I did stay the whole time. Okay, I did stay for a while. That's good. I feel better about that now. But yeah, Tim is one of my best friends. Tim is an amazing person, and I want you guys to know that I will. These two people are both I would protect above everybody. and anyone give them any trouble, I'd destroy them because they're great people. I mean that. And yeah, it's Tim's great. He's he's been there with me for a lot, and he's great. And I just go follow him, support his stuff, listen to his Batman podcast is great. Yeah, you're awesome, Tim. Thanks for coming on. And please, if you're watching this, please subscribe to the Comic Binge podcast, please, or channel, I should say, podcast, whatever it is. Subscribe to it, like it, help me get in that sweet YouTube algorithm because it's weird. I don't know. I hate begging for stuff. Begging for stuff's stupid, but you got to, I guess.
You're not begging, you're promoting.
What's the difference?
You're plugging.
I'm just not naturally that person. So it's hard for me, but anyway, thank you so much. This will be on, obviously we'll do more live streams too, soon for Star Wars, more Star Wars content coming. And, again, not completely comic book based, but we always bring it back to comic books, and we'll do recommendations next time, but we're running late. I appreciate Jonah coming on. She's 3 hours ahead. She gotta go to bed. So anyone, I'm signing off. Everybody, thank you again for coming on. And as always, read more comic books. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.